All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name's Jeremy. I'm part of the reservations team here at Coral Expeditions, based in the office up in Cairns, far north Queensland. I also have a few guests that are going to take joining us today, and we'll introduce you shortly. Thanks for taking the time, and we're going to explore one of the most vast and ancient natural history and landscapes of the world. You name it, the Kimberley. Right at the end of the webinar, we're going to have time for some question and answers right at the end. So just type them in the chat if you can, and we will organise them at the end. Also, this is going to be recorded. So for those that want to watch this later or have friends and family that might be interested, we will organise that a bit later at the end as well and send you out the details on the recorded webinar. We'll go from here. Okay. Today we're going to take you through one of the journeys of coral expeditions and give you a really insight to the Kimberley's vast and rugged coastline, which has been shaped for over ancient cultures and one of the most beautiful and remote wilderness areas of the world. For those that are new to coral expeditions, we've been operating for over 40 years and with one single purpose, that is to take small groups of like-minded explorers to remote places with expert guides, warm Australian hospitality and guidance. To begin our Kimberley journey today, I'm going to give you a sneak peek at what you can expect from one of our experienced expeditions in the remote wilderness of the Kimberley region. Enjoy. I really hope that's put a spark in everybody's eye. That's just 2 minutes of what you can expect on our 10-night Kimberley voyage. That is just one little insight as to what you will experience over our voyages. And so we're going to take a further dive into what you can expect on our voyages. Starting in the 90s, Coral Expeditions completed our first Kimberley voyage as one of the first expedition cruise operators to explore that very vast region. Out of the 40 years, Coral Expeditions have been operating 30 of those in the Kimberley region. Being one of the original Australian flagged expedition pioneers, this has allowed us to curate the perfect expedition cruise throughout the Kimberley region, and that what we have on offer. Our expert guides and crew, they're going to share their expansive knowledge and passion for the region through many years of experience. In the Kimberley, knowledge and experience is key given the huge tidal flows and the fact that the region is uncharted and very, very remote, as you know. Our vessels are Australian flagged. This means we spend more time in the Kimberley and have the best local knowledge and don't need to spend your valuable time travelling outside of international waters, which other foreign lines do have to do. Our vessels are Australian operated and with Australian New Zealand crew. This will get time to experience the ultimate and warm Australian hospitality throughout your voyage. This weather is absolutely amazing in the Kimberley region, and we operate these from April through to September. You're going to see a bit more of this as we go through. This might be enjoying a nice cold beer or a glass of wine on Veranda Beach, as you can see here, with the sand between your toes. Or it might be on board our vessels, where we encourage the natural Australian style of service with open interaction with our guests and crew. Once you're on, you'll be watching all sorts of different locations throughout different areas on board. You can have a chat with the captain, or you can sit back and relax with the company of our guest lecturers and other like-minded travellers. This is the true expedition style of trip. We have 3 Australian flagged expedition ships, which are designed for the Kimberley region. They feature wraparound decks, private balconies on some of our staterooms, and outdoor dining, which allows you to enjoy the fabulous Kimberley sunsets. The shallow draft and high movability of our purpose-built designed expedition ships let you get closer to the coastal adventures and explore the sheltered bays and hidden inlets of inaccessible to the larger ships. All right, we're going to start with our Coral Discoverer. Coral Discoverer is a yacht-like vessel. She only has 36 staterooms and she carries up to a maximum of 72 passengers. Coral Discoverer is now 15 years old, but has undergone a recent refurbishment up in Cairns in December just been. Coral Discoverer is really loved by all our loyal regulars. She has an intimate feel, just being much smaller as I just described before. Coral Discoverer does focus on the Kimberley throughout the year, starting in April and finishing in September. She does also do other Australian domestic itineraries. That's Cape York and Arnhem Land at the top of Australia, the Great Barrier Reef and in Queensland, and then Tasmania season generally throughout the summer in the southern seasons. Next vessel we have is called Coral Adventurer. Coral Adventurer was launched in 2019. A slightly bigger build, Coral Discoverer has 60 staterooms, carrying up to a maximum of 120 passengers. We have a very, very familiar design over the 3 vessels, so you won't get lost just by wandering around. On the Coral Adventurer, she's just a little bit bigger with different room types. So you'll be able to experience 2 large 55 square metre suites on board with an array of other room designs as well. Outside of the Kimberley season, the Coral Adventurer can go internationally. We're looking at the likes of Papua New Guinea, Japan, the Philippines, and then other locations within Australia, depending on the time of year as well. Our newest vessel, the Coral Geographer, she was built in 2021. Again, a very similar layout to the Coral Adventurer. They are sister ships. The Coral Geographer was designed off of the Adventurer, so you do get that very, very natural feel about the 2 ships there. With all the mod cons, of course, being only built in 2021. This Coral Geographer has 6 suites in comparison to the Adventurer. We just had different feedback and thought we might lavish this ship up a little bit more. So when the Coral Geographer is not in the Kimberley season, again, she has the experience to go international waters. We've taken her across the Indian Ocean just recently, New Zealand, and our new sub-Antarctic voyage as well. As mentioned on our ships, every room is outward facing. So that means you will have a window or balcony. There are no internal rooms there, so you'll never miss out on a view when you're in the Kimberley region. They are all purpose built and definitely have that tropic feel. And they have plenty of outdoor alfresco dining options and just locations where you can walk around the ship and view your amazing locations. All rooms are twin share, and we do have the option for sole use capacity as well. So just talk to us in the reservations team or your travel agent when making the decision on which ship you'd like to book onto. All three of the vessels will undertake the Kimberley season, so you can have a good read through the deck plans of what you're wanting to get out of your experience. So we also have our Explorer vessels. You've probably seen a little bit of these on our website. These Explorer tenders are purpose-built expedition style to get you from A to B. We like to call them the safari jeeps of the sea. Now, to get from the main ship onto these, you literally walk off the platform, and this will hydraulically lower you to the water so you can start your excursions in under 5 minutes' time. So that's no waiting. That's absolutely time and just saves you all that energy of having to go on other different mechanisms. This one here that you were able to see on the image below, we have these on all three of our ships. The Coral Discoverer can fit all guests on there, all 72 passengers, and our expedition leaders are able to join you, so you get that nice group feeling. The two biggest ships, Coral Adventurer and Geographer, they have two of these, carrying about 60 passengers each, and we're split up into groups from there. They are very comfortable. They have padded seats, they have a roof for weather protection, and they do have an onboard toilet as well. Basically, to get off these, they have a front ramp and side access. We also have audio on there, so when you're with your expedition leaders, they will be able to talk you through where you are, and you'll be able to hear them nice, loud and clear. On board, we also do have our Zodiacs that you can see on the image as well. For the Zodiacs, we don't use them all the time. We do use our Explorer vessels from the previous screen to get you from A to B, but these Zodiacs are really useful to get right up close to nature. So we can navigate through the narrow inlets and the waterways of the Kimberley and other regions that we travel, but we'll use them when possible. They do have a bench there as well, so it is comfortable. But as I said, we'll use a mixture of these and the Explorer vessels to get you around the excursions. Now, Coral Expeditions was actually one of the first operators to employ interpretive guides on our cruises, and the tradition continues today. This includes a mix of our full-time guest lecturers who will join the expedition leaders as special guests, and they are chosen for their niche and specific knowledge on the locations. And they immerse themselves with the guests and they talk to you about the locations that you are in and their specialized knowledge. It's just really good to hear their expertise of where they're from, what they're learning about, and they just join you with all the excursions and your dinners and also give a presentation as well so you can get to know them quite well throughout your 10-night voyage. Having guided expeditions in the region for over 3 decades now, we know all the nooks and crannies that others don't. Our expedition team provide local expertise with a strong understanding of the unique landscapes, the flora and the fauna, as well as the indigenous culture of the region. Our passionate expedition leaders are on board and they take guests to every excursion. We don't have a handover of other locations, so this one here is really particular where the passionate expedition leaders are going to be joining you. We focus on generally about 2 shore excursions a day, so you are out and about a lot of the time, which is fantastic. We also have other we have other sort of journeys where people can go on if they're not up for the larger walks that we may have on some of the days. They might include a coastal beach combing. They might do a more challenging hike. They might go to some viewing points of different interests. There's always something that we'll be able to have on offer for you all. All right. So before I introduce you to our team who's going to be joining us for the rest of the webinar, I'm going to play again another short video. This is one of our longest serving expedition leaders. His name is Jamie. He's been with the company for over 20 years now, so a true Kimberley pioneer. He is one of our most experienced team members for joining us over all this time. So enjoy this video and I'll come back to you shortly.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jamie, your expedition leader, giving you the final call. You'll need hat, sunscreen, water, as it will be warm. Optional footwear, folks. Thank you. I'm James Anderson, mostly called Jamie, and I've been in this role for around 17 years with the company. Back in 2002, I was teaching, and I was asked by a friend of mine if I was interested in doing a job. I was fed up with teaching, and so I said, I'll give it a go. He put me on the Kimberley run for the first time. People travelling the Kimberley will see a massive diversification of not only animals and plants, but also the rock systems. Geology is huge in the Kimberley due to its age. It is the most remote wilderness area left in Australia, really. And luckily, it's still like that. It's not overrun yet. More and more vessels are coming in, but at the same time, when it comes down to it, there's still plenty of places you can go without seeing anybody. The remoteness makes it one of the most magnificent trips around. You can't get bored anywhere that we go. Everything's new. The weather changes, the light changes. You've also got the marine side of things. These are with the whales and dolphin. Also going up into river systems that nobody else goes into. It is the most unique reef in the world. It comes out of water, exposes itself twice a day, and it depends on the tidal level as to how much of the reef is exposed. So what we've seen on our cruise this particular trip has been just extraordinary. The Indigenous populations, there are three different groups that we go through. We go through the Wunabal Gambera people, we go through the Warra country, and we go through the Bardi country. They departed basically in 1942, and so we're lucky to go through those particular different areas, and it's nice if we can see them along the way.
All right, that just gives an insight into what Jamie does from day to day with us, and we're very, very lucky to have him on board. As I said, 20 years ago, taking a chance on coral expeditions and still with us today. It's absolutely fantastic. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to one of our experienced expedition leaders as well. His name is David Keech. I've had the pleasure of joining him on board recently, and his passion and knowledge about the region is absolutely outstanding. He's going to be joining you and going to run through some of our next slides with you. So take it away, Dave. Maybe if we check the microphone for David.
How's that now?
That sounds better. Welcome.
Right. Welcome, everyone. All right. As Jeremy said, my name's Dave. I've been working for Coral Expeditions for around about 6 years now. I've had a little break during the COVID period and back again, and looking forward to my first Kimberley trip for the season coming up. And it is my favourite itinerary on the program, and it's just an amazing place. I started my guiding career up in the Kimberley at Old Crestro Station as a ranger and tour guide, and eventually all the marine experience I gathered before coming to Coral, and my Kimberley experience got me the job with Coral, and it's just a wonderful spot. Now you can see from the trip map there, starting Well, you can start at either end from Darwin or Broome, and either way you go, it's an amazing trip. They both finish on a high. So I might just take you through from Darwin this time. But I will say, and I tell everyone on board when I give my briefing at the start of the trip, that every single Kimberley trip is different. We always hit the major spots like King George Falls and Mitchell's Falls and Montgomery Reef and Raft Point, Lastford Islands. But everything in between, because we're able to do multiple activities moving between places during the day, there's lots of other little options we can put in. And like Jeremy said about the tides, it's all about the tides in the Kimberley. And that designates how I plan each trip up in the Kimberley. So, you get tides up to 10 metres in the Kimberleys and above. And for those special tides, we can get up into the upper reaches of rivers that we can never get to when we don't have the tide. So it's just a wonderful place. Really exciting as an expedition leader to plan all these trips. I love it. I can't wait to plan the next trip because each trip is different, and I can't wait to share it with you if you're coming along. We might go on to the next slide if we can. All right, King George Falls. So what we do when we come from Darwin, we'll leave in the afternoon. From Darwin, we'll steam across the Joseph Bonaparte Gulf. And what will happen, you'll wake up in the morning to the sights of Kalama Bay and King George Falls. And we'll take a nice little ride. You'll see this, you'll go from the landscape of Darwin, which is very low level and mangroves. And you wake up in the morning to see this wonderful red 1.8 billion year old sandstone. And it's just an amazing sight. And if you get the opportunity to get there early in the season, and it is a little bit warm, but it's my favorite time of the season up in the Kimberley, you'll get to see these amazing waterfalls. And if we get a big wet season, you'll see them cascading off the edge of these wonderful sandstone cliffs and into the ocean, which is something really, really special. So along the way, up to about 20 minutes or so to get up to the waterfall, we'll launch the Explorer. We've got two Explorers on Coral Adventure and Coral Geographer, so I'm able to do two different activities at the same time, which I think is wonderful. So we'll head up with the Explorers into King George. As I said, at the start of the season, there's usually quite a good flow. The flow you can see in the image there, that's probably closer to mid to the end of the season, where King George Falls is getting a lesser flow, but it is just spectacular after the wet season to see it in full flow. Things you might see on the way there, we go to a few feeding grounds for the dugongs, and sometimes if we're lucky enough, they'll have their calves in there. So to see these little baby dugongs in King George River is just amazing. Lots of seagulls along the way. We'll see this wonderful pock marking they call Tofoni on the sandstone as well. All right, and then we'll head off from King George to our next spot. We'll see what the next slide is. The local art sites there. This is one of my favourite. This is in Swift Bay, and it's a twin gorge art site. And the reason it's my favourite art site up in the Kimberley, and you can see the rock art style behind Jamie there, and that's the Guion rock art style. So this is all over 17,000 years old, and it's just a layer upon layer of different rock art styles from this ancient period of rock art. So you've got the Wodgina art that you'll see in Raft Point that's 5,000 years old and younger. Some of the art was done while I've been working for Coral up in Raft Point by one of the elders, just working on a piece he's been working on for years. But some of this stuff you see, the art you'll see at sites like this at Swift Bay, just incredible because you're looking back in time. And you'll see these wonderful onion headdresses where you'll see dancing figures and the peg style Guion figures. And you'll also see, you'll get to see some coloured Guion art, that the ochre that they use, different yellows and reds, still holds its colour thousands and thousands of years later. So just incredible. But yeah, like I said, there's some amazing rock arts. This is my favorite. There's also an amazing rock art site at Vansittart Bay as well, which is just down the road, which I think is on the next slide. So we'll have a look at that now. Oh, Mitchell Falls. There you go. I should actually look at my notes there. Now, Mitchell Falls, a wonderful spot. If you're going to Swift Bay, this is an alternate activity you can do. So if you'd like to see Mitchell Falls by helicopter, we give you the opportunity to do that. So we can access the helicopters from Helispirit from a few different beaches. Swift Bay is one of them, Winnialkin Island, Big Island is a couple more. But this is an opportunity for you if you'd like to see Mitchell Falls and you don't want to go up the bumpy road, which I used to hear a lot of whinging about when I was working at Alquestro Station. All the caravans and people trying to get up the road to Mitchell Falls. It's a little bit bumpy and corrugated. But this is another way to do it, much easier way to do it. The explorers will drop you at the beach. The helicopters will be running straight from the beach, and you'll get about a 20-minute ride on the helicopter both ways, and get to have a walk up to the top of the waterfall. And you'll stand at a position just like this gentleman on the right of your screen there, looking down at Mitchell Falls. And you'll get the opportunity for a swim as well, if you'd like a little dip, because there is I wouldn't say it's up to around your waist or so deep, but it's definitely worth a swim at the top to Mitchell Falls. And if we can coordinate it well enough, you'll also get to see one of the rock art sites as well at Swift Bay. All right, what's the next slide there, if you may? Process Creek, this is over near Naturalist Island, and just a wonderful contrast to some of the places we see up in the Kimberley. So you've got these wonderful green mangrove areas. You'll see, different, almost tropical areas up under these foothills near Naturalist Island. And Process Creek's a wonderful place where we go for cruises with the explorers, and it's a great opportunity to see our saltwater crocodiles, especially we might even do a nighttime croc spot on the trip. That's one of my little favourite things to do as well, go out for a croc spot at nighttime and look for some red eyes. And if we're lucky, we'll see on the lower tides or mid tides, we'll see some of the crocs on the banks as well. And not far from Process Creek is a wonderful spot where you'll see these crystals, all the quartz crystals, a place called Thor's Hammer, which is like a giant rock formation that looks like a hammer covered in quartz. And for the geology buffs, it does get them quite excited. I sometimes will jump off the Explorer and grab a piece of the quartz crystals that have formed, just to show everyone on the Explorer. All right, next slide, please. All right, King Cascade, that's another wonderful location. We're actually retracing the steps here, Philip Parker King. And this King Cascade, not King's Cascade, it is named after Philip Parker King. You can see our explorer nosed up to the waterfall there, and this wonderful grass that seems to grow off this cascading waterfall. And it must have been an amazing sight when Philip Parker King took his vessel, the Mermaid, HMC Mermaid, up this river, 20 mile up the river. Very easy to do it on our Explorer vessels because we can, do 20, 30 knots up this river. But obviously for Philip Parker King, it would have been a slow journey, and to see this fresh water would have been something special as he came up the river. And there's even a little walk on the top of this, not for the faint-hearted, but I do take groups to the top of this waterfall if you're able, and for a little swim at the top. But what we do with we try and do with all the guests is we'll nose the Explorer up to the waterfall, put the platform down, and let you sit under the waterfall and get wet without having to jump in the water. You'll do it from Explorer and get a bit of a shower from Explorer. Okay, next slide. Oh, there we go. And there's Careening Bay, where Philip Parker King careened his vessel, the HMC Mermaid, which was an 84-foot cutter. And he careened the vessel there because he had nail holes in his vessel. He'd had some repairs in the tropics, and instead of replacing with the brass nails, they replaced them with steel ones. Of course, by the time he got to the Kimberley coast, these all rotted out, or rusted out, I should say, and he ended up being careened, having to careen his vessel on low tide on Careening Bay, where they've inscripted the HMC Mermaid 1820 onto this boab, which is also depicted in some sketchings to see, just to show you the size of the tree back when he actually saw it at the time. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is one of the highlights of the trip, and just an incredible place, Montgomery Reef. It is 400 square kilometres of reef that is exposed on the lower tides. So once it gets to about 4 meters of tide, and you can imagine if it's a 10-meter tide, once we hit 4 meters, it's going to keep rising. This 400 square kilometer reef is going to keep rising out of the water. And it's just something to behold. So you can see the Montgomery Reef inlet there as we go up, and all those waterfalls you can see on the top of the inlet. And you can see how crystal clear that water is as well. So what I usually plan for one of these trips is, we've got a few days. It's quite an amazing area. Montgomery Reef, you've got Raft Point, you've got Redcone Creek, all these activities in the one place. So what I try and do is time the tides. So we either get to do this activity at sunrise or sunset, if possible. So we'll pick the right day and the right tide. So you can either watch it come out of the water, and we'll cruise out just before the reef comes out of the water, and you won't be able to see anything. It'll look totally normal, and all of a sudden this reef just starts coming out of the water, and you just see these wonderful cascading waterfalls everywhere. Just amazing. And if we do it at sunset, well, there's usually a glass of champagne involved if I can get it on the boat, if the purser will let me, and we'll watch Monty come out of the water right on. Running up to sunset if the times work out. All right, next slide. Horizontal waterfalls, another key, place for the itinerary. Obviously, you can see our tenders, our zodiacs there. This is the most exciting way to do the horizontal waterfalls. Some of you may have done it with Horizontal Seaplane Adventures. They have much bigger vessels. More powerful, of course, but they don't get the experience our guests get in these wonderful inflatables. They're rigid inflatables, and you can see the operators going through. We go through the wide gap at the start and have a look at the narrow gap on the other end, and just an amazing experience. And when we get these giant tides, we actually have to wait to a certain time of the day that we can actually do them. We can't do them on the peak flow, so we might have to stay there for the day and do the ride through the falls when it's appropriate for your safety and for the best experience for you for running through the waterfalls. And this little area is just spectacular geology you'll see around Horizontal Falls. Just amazing. Nares Point, there's some of that geology I was talking about, this folding from the tectonic plates colliding, and must have been an incredible force to set this sandstone at right angles like you can see there at Nares Point. Just incredible. And we'll get up close and personal to a lot of these geological formations, and just a spectacular spot for photography. I mean, the Kimberley's great for photography. I'm an avid photographer, as all the expedition crew are. We'll be taking photos for you along the trip, and we enjoy that. So you can relax and not take any photos if you don't want to. And all the expedition crew will be providing some photos for the trip for you. And I can tell you, I take about 1,000 a week, and so do the other crew. So it's a lot of culling of beautiful photos that we have to do to get you a collection of 200 or 300 photos for the trip. And on the way to Broome, you'll see the Lassipede Islands. This is a wonderful Class A nature reserve with a lot of history. guano mining on the island. The Americans tried to take over this island with the Guano Act, the American Guano Act, and put a flag up even at one stage. It was only one gentleman. He didn't last very long. But they had a post office on there. The guano trade was something to behold back at the time, and they were exporting it over to Europe to put on all our gardens, all their gardens at the time. But what you see at the Lassipedes are these wonderful brown boobies, and they've got blue feet, blue beaks, and if you get there during the season where we've got all the booby chicks on the sand, it's an incredible sight. They're like white, fluffy big birds, and they almost get heavier and fluffier. Well, they definitely get fluffier, but nearly heavier than their parents, because they just constantly get fed. They don't move much from the nest. So just a wonderful sight to behold. We do go onto the island in very small groups of 6 at a time to have a look at the birds in an appropriate location. And we also see the green sea turtles nesting on these islands. So you get to see some amazing displays by the green sea turtles if you're there at the right time. Sometimes you'll see them mating, and it's quite a sight to behold when you're sitting on the Explorer vessel watching all these green sea turtles swimming around. And there are literally thousands of them. Okay, next slide. Lots of wildlife encounters, whether you're love your birds or your reptiles, your marine mammals. There's a bit of everything up in the Kimberley. If you're there mid-season, around when the whales are there, it's an incredible sight to follow the humpbacks around, and we'll often take a detour and have a look at these wonderful humpback whales on their migration. They go up to the tropical waters to have their young, have their calves, and then they'll head back down the coast. So we get to see them in full effect at the right time of year. You've got some, obviously some saltwater crocodiles about, and they are wonderful. And if we can get the Explorer up nice and close to these wonderful reptiles, then we do so. You see one of those, see lots of bird life on there, such as one of my favorites, the azure kingfishers. There's just an amazing array of birds. Not as many as you would think in the Kimberley. There's lots of bird species up there, but there won't be large flocks of birds everywhere until you get to the Lassipedes. So you'll be doing a lot of bird spotting in the mangroves to see these small birds, rare birds like the chestnut rail as well. All right. Well, I hope that gives you a bit of an intro, folks. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Dave. Your knowledge is absolutely valuable, and guests listening, I hope you found that really, really insightful. Yeah, as Dave said, he's been there for a number of years, and looking forward to the Kimberley season kicking off in April. Wish you well, Dave.
Thank you, Jeremy. All right.
No worries.
Lovely to talk to everyone.
Very good. So I do have one last video here that I'm going to play for you all. This will also give you an opportunity for your last minute questions. A few have come through over the period of the webinar, so we'll get them together. Dave, you might want to hang on the line. I'm sure there's a couple for you as well. And we'll play this video out so you can just have that last minute questions, and we will be wrapping up shortly. One of the key questions that has come through a few times, Dave, and you did touch on it briefly. Do you think there's any benefit of starting the expedition in Darwin as opposed to Broome?
Yeah, so I would say it's about the same no matter which way you do it. Like I said, there's highlights at both ends, and the middle, kind of I call the heart of the Kimberley, is around Montgomery Reef, Raft Point, Redcone Creek, Sale River. That's kind of like a hub of activity, and you've got Rock Art to the north and the King George River. If you're coming at the end of the trip, if you're coming from Broome, and then you've got the horizontal waterfalls and Montgomery Reef and Laspeed Islands to finish if you're going the other way. So I don't think it matters.
Very good. Yeah, excellent. You also were mentioning whales in there as well just before. Do you have a best time of year that we might be able to see the whales migrate?
Well, the pack's getting bigger and bigger, actually. I think they're still growing at about 5% a year. So there'll be over 40,000 of them coming up and down the WA coast. So that's something incredible to see. But around about, I guess, May, June, July, that's where you'll see the peak of if you're looking at the most amount of whales up in that area.
Fantastic. Now we do start our season in April. Is there any sort of notation on how rough the seas might get in that early season? We do sort of say during that May, June, July, we get pretty glassy weather, but what about maybe April or even the end in September?
Look, I think as obviously the conditions get the end of the season, the conditions are quite good. You're getting closer to the build-up season for the wet season, but it's obviously the heat's getting a little bit hotter. You're starting to see those big cumulonimbus clouds build up as well. And you're talking about earlier in the season. But to be honest, the conditions don't really challenge us too much at any time. There's a little bit of sometimes we get a bit of a crossing going across the Bonaparte Gulf. Sometimes it's challenging getting out to the Lassipedes with the swell, depending on the trip. But apart from that, it's just due to the underwater geology of the Kimberley coast. I think we get very lucky. It's just crossing the Bonaparte Gulf is probably the only spot that can get very rough, and apart from that, yeah, it's pretty good the whole trip.
Fantastic. One of the questions has come through I can answer about COVID restrictions at the moment. So within our company, we do have all guests and crew undertake a rapid antigen test. That's 24 hours before the trip starts. So we do allow you to take a photograph of your rapid antigen test and send it to us prior to the day before departure. Also, at check-in, we will get all guests to undertake a rapid antigen test again, just for your safety and precaution. If that is positive, please just contact us in the office. Because we do submit all these results to the marine directives, positive cases are unable to board the voyage, but we still do offer the future cruise credit at the value of the cruise fare. We can run through all of that in the team, so you can give us a call and we'll be able to run through your options there with you. We have had a few questions about the recent flooding in the Kimberley region as well. All of our team are keeping a close eye on this as well. It really shouldn't have an impact on our voyages as we do start the season, as I said, in April. We are monitoring all this going through, but as we do cruise on the coastline, we do not have the anticipation that this will impact on our voyages. If we are getting closer to the departure date and something does come up, our management will reach out to all guests. But in the meantime, please just sit back and we will look forward to seeing you in the 2023 season. In the same breath, we do have our 2024 Kimberley season out for sale as well. So you can have a look through our website and choose particular dates of interest to you. As I said, all three of our vessels operate in the Kimberley season pretty much from April through till September. We do have that 2023 availability, and then 2024 dates are on sale as well. As I said, we do have the 2023 availability, and for joining the webinar, we have some current promotions on for the season. As you can see on the screen, we have a $500 per person travel credit for any new Kimberley bookings for the 2023 departures. On board, we also can offer 4 gigabytes of Wi-Fi, and that is complimentary, as well as complimentary deposit protection. All of these information can be found on our website. It can also be found through your travel agency as well. So you're welcome to give them a call and ask about our current promotions. Also, us in the reservations team as well. You can call us in the Cairns office and we can walk through this. All the departure dates are listed on our website. And as I said, you can have access through this with your travel consultant. This is for new bookings, so please just talk to us about your current options there. And yeah, this is a recorded webinar, so we can send you the details on this a little bit later as well. I think that wraps up all the questions here. We've gone through them, and Dave, thank you so much for joining us, and your knowledge and expertise is fantastic and well appreciated.
My pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all, and yeah, hope you have a fantastic time and happy planning for the Kimberley season. We hope to welcome you on one of our expeditions very, very shortly.